All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are ready to start our session 2. And thank you very much, everyone, for being so punctual and coming back to your seats. Session 2 is all about digital transformation and innovation. And the session chair for this session will be Dr. Sunil D.B. Abeyaratne, Senior Attorney at Law, Chairman-ICT Law Committee, LAWASIA and ICT Lawyers Guild of Sri Lanka, former Secretary of the Bar Association. A multidisciplinary legal authority, Dr. Abeyaratne combines 39 years of courtroom advocacy with groundbreaking academic contributions to ICT and commercial law in South Asia. He's a digital law pioneer who is an author of Sri Lanka's seminal ICT law textbooks, and his co-expertise includes commercial arbitration and complex litigation. Dr. Abeyaratne's academic qualification includes PhD in law from the University of Colombo and LLM in commercial law from Queen Mary, University of London, and MBA in HRM. Having authored over 100 conference papers, Dr. Abeyaratne serves on numerous boards and committees and chairman of the ICT Law Committee and LAWASIA. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Sunil D.B. Abeyaratne. Thank you. The first subtopic will be discussed by Mr. Sanjaya Karunasena, Executive Director, Acting CTO, Acting CEO at Information Communication Technology Agency, who will talk to us on digital infrastructure development. He's a seasoned technologist, executive consultant, and entrepreneur with over 26 years of expertise in digital governance, enterprise software architecture, and technological innovation. Has held leadership positions at firms such as Virtusa and WSO2, and has played pivotal roles in shaping enterprise-level solutions and frameworks, and was the Chief Technology Officer of ICTA from 2008 to 2013, and presently serves on the board of the ICTA. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Sanjaya Karunasena. Subtopic 2 will be discussed by Ms. Sandra Zoysa, Group Chief Custom Officer at Dialog Axiata, Managing Director, Dialog Business Services, who will talk to us on digital inclusion and accessibility to drive economic growth. Sandra was the founding member and the first chairperson of SLASCOM, Sri Lanka's IT BPM chamber. With over 35 years in ICT, Sandra is globally recognized for her contributions to customer experience, women in tech, and business leadership. A BCS fellow, she holds a master's in digital transformation leadership, master's in HRM, and executive MBA specialized in innovation and entrepreneurship. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Sandra Zoysa. And the subtopic 3 will be on Sri Lanka in global tech arena, opportunities, challenges, and the road ahead, will be addressed by Dr. Dharmasri Kumaratunge, Chairman, PayMedia, Consultant, Public Policy, Mastercard. Dr. Dharmasri has over 35 years of extensive experience in public banking and finance, financial technology, IT, and international trade, payment processing, information and communication technology, and digital transformation. Has held several key leadership positions, such as Secretary of the Ministry of Technology, Assistant Governor at the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, and was the Director of the Payments and Settlements Department, Chairman of the Telecommunications Regulatory Commission of Sri Lanka, and Information and Communication Technology from 2024 to September 2024, and also served as a board director of several organizations. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Dharmasri Kumaratunge. Would like to remind all the presenters, you have 40 minutes of presentation time, and at the end of all 3 presentations, the entire session will have another 20 minutes to entertain all the questions from the audience. Over to the session chair.
Thank you very much for introducing us. Welcome everyone. We are excited to have you join us for an engaging session where we will explore the transformative impact of digital transformation and innovation on our lives. Digital transformation has revolutionized the way countries, regions, and companies pursue innovation. It reshapes the landscape of innovation performance, challenging traditional organizational boundaries that often restrict growth. As technology progresses, these boundaries continue to blur, enhancing the flow of information and fostering collaboration across organizational lines. Digital technologies empower global partnerships, democratize access to knowledge and resources, and provide advanced analytical tools. This capability allows firms to transcend their resource limitations, explore new markets, and innovate new products effectively. Organizations that adeptly weave these technologies into their innovation strategies will not only maintain a competitive edge, but also have the potential to redefine entire industries and generate remarkable value. In today's digital landscape, swift and effective innovation closely ties to an organization's readiness to embrace digital transformation, necessitating a cultural evolution alongside technological adoption. Research on China manufacturing companies listed on Asia's from 2016 to 2019 indicates that blockchain technology significantly enhances collaborative innovation outcomes. Successful business cultivate a culture of continuous experimentation, tolerance for failure, and rapid learning, all facilitated through digital tools. Sri Lanka is emerging as a significant player in the global IT industry, especially in managed IT services. This rise is fueled by a talented workforce, cost-effective solutions, strong infrastructure, and progressive policies that foster innovation and growth. With that introduction to our theme, I would like to invite Mr. Sanjaya Karunasena to share his insight and recommendations on the vital topic of digital infrastructure development.
Thank you. Good morning. Let me talk about digital infrastructure development. We have envisioned under the digital economy blueprint strategy. So, first of all, just to remind all of us why governments should invest into infrastructure development, let me present you like 3 examples which all of us are familiar with. We are all familiar with the Mahavali project and the economic impact it had on the nation. We were able to significantly enhance our food security through agriculture and electricity in terms of energy security, and many more development in those areas. Similarly, the liberalization of telecommunication sector also made ways to a lot of development, and all the benefits we are enjoying today in terms of location independency, the mobile connectivity, and IT sector development, a lot of were fueled by the development in this sector. And also the road network development which happened also made a significant impact, positive impact on the economy in terms of connecting rural areas to the city and reducing transportation time and reducing cost of businesses and so on. So what does it do the government invests on it, and it then unlocks certain barriers for citizens, businesses, and the entire citizenry. And that fuels economic development. So what is digital infrastructure, just to get ourselves familiar with? So at the bottom, you will have connectivity, which is a mass, right? Which is fiber, mobile, broadband, and so on, because we need to get connected digitally for infrastructure to work. So it's like the road network, right? Then the infrastructure to run systems, you need to have scalable infrastructure. So data centers, cloud technologies plays the role there. And then in the digital world, to identify somebody, in the physical world we use an identity card, but in the digital world you need to have an equivalent, so that's where the digital ID plays in. And then in order to exchange information in a meaningful way, you need to have interoperability standard defined and a data exchange platform where everybody can seamlessly exchange data digitally. And with that, of course, security becomes very important. Cybersecurity plays a significant role, and having trust frameworks established, legislature, relevant regulations, required institutes to regulate, and so on and so forth. So essentially, it provides the foundation for us. And certain foundational platforms we already experience, like payments and digital wallets, we call e-wallets. All these are part of digital infrastructure. So why those are classified as infrastructure? Those are components which can be used by everybody, like a road network. You establish a road network, everybody can use it. They are not restricted to the one who established that. So similarly, when we establish infrastructure of that nature digitally, those are available for the government as well as the private sector. So what does it matter? Of course, it drives inclusion, connecting citizens to services, regardless of their location, reduce inefficiencies, fragmentation of services, and enable very effective crisis response. Again, we can recall during the pandemic time, the digital helped us to continue our work, continue education, and so on. And when we had the economic crisis, the QR system enables us to bring some order to the madness we had, right, with fuel and so on. So it gives us certain enablers. Also, very importantly, it helps us to make decisions based on data. Without having data, you can't make proper decisions. So that's a key thing. So it ensures policy and planning are done based on data. So it powers the infrastructure, essentially powers services, systems, and then innovations. When these capabilities are available for the entrepreneurs, they can innovate on top of it. So let me touch on an important aspect of digital infrastructure, which we have put a lot of emphasis on. We call it digital public infrastructure, DPIs. So generally, what we know as digital infrastructure are mainly hard infrastructure like connectivity, fiber, data centers, and so on. But this is a soft layer of infrastructure. In a minute, I'll explain what are those components, but at a high level, it actually makes systems developed by various organizations efficient. So it goes beyond simply providing you connectivity or a common place to host your systems in a cost-efficient way. This brings up capabilities which will make even the systems you develop a lot more efficient, secure, scalable. So it enables creating common rails which can be shared by not just government, the private sector as well. And with that, these common infrastructure can enhance security, trust, inclusion, privacy, and so on, which will then ensure the system built on top of these systems are also inherit those capabilities. So the beauty there is it can significantly accelerate innovation and economic growth. And the global examples are like countries like India, Estonia, and Singapore. India is like the classic example because the reason economic growth they have achieved, they are attributing a lot to digital, and this whole concept of digital public infrastructure is also promoted by them. So what is our status in Sri Lanka? We have a good network coverage, which can improve further, of course. What we are hoping is push it to a level even in rural areas that you will have at least 4G connectivity. And we have cloud infrastructure available for the government. We call it Lanka Government Cloud. We recently did an upgrade to it, which will help us to serve the current and immediate future demands. And we have plans to further increase its capacity and bring more capabilities into it. We have started working on the digital ID. The procurement process has started. So with this, we'll be able to provide across the board for everybody inclusive digital ID with 100% accuracy of establishing identity in the digital space. We have a very good payment infrastructure. We can even now do instant account-to-account transfer even across banks. So that's a very good achievement. And we have legal frameworks established, and we are further enhancing those so that the legislative coverage we need for the capabilities we require are firmly established. So let me spend a few minutes on explaining the blueprint, which will help you understand the whole digital public infrastructure conceptualization, then architecture we are thinking of. Now at the bottom is the traditional infrastructure we are used to, right? Which is the cloud infrastructure and connectivity to ensure that everybody can connect to the services we are offering. So there, like I said, we want to push it to a level that everybody will have good broadband connectivity. And then in terms of cloud capabilities, we want to establish a government sovereign cloud with hybrid capabilities. When I say hybrid capabilities, what we want to achieve is we want to have what international cloud providers provide as capabilities available locally to a large extent. But when we want to really hyperscale, being able to push those workloads into the public cloud. So application can be designed in a way that you can maintain your sensitive data locally, for example, personally identifiable data, right? So you may not want to put that outside Sri Lankan jurisdiction. So then you can maintain those data in the region within the Sri Lankan data centers, but run other workloads elsewhere. So we want to develop those capabilities in this infrastructure layer. And then comes the digital public infrastructure I mentioned. One of the core components in it is the digital ID. So with the digital ID, we'll be able to identify someone in the digital space, the cyber space, 100% accurately, because it will be biometric backed. What is the advantage of it? That means not just the government, even the private sector, banks, telcos, any other service, you can start offering your services without having a physical presence, because you can identify the person digitally with 100% accuracy. So you can imagine how that's going to change even the businesses can operate. You will be able to open a bank account without having to visit a bank. You'll be able to get a SIM card without having to visit one of those places, right? And you can push out these services to rural areas. You may be able to obtain a government service even just from a small outlet somewhere, because the digital system can recognize the individual very accurately using the digital identity capability. And then we'll have many other digital public infrastructure components. I'm not going to go into details, like the data exchange, digital signature, and so on. But let me touch on what the benefit of having these two layers implemented like this and government investing into it. So the focus will be this. We will establish this and make it available for the rest of the government as well as the private sector. So all these will be enabled through open APIs, and there will be a marketplace to sign up and access data. Some of it will be free, and if you're going to make use of large volumes of data, maybe there's a payment involved. But on top of this, government organizations will develop applications using the capabilities in the underlying infrastructure. So what does this mean? For example, when you are to obtain a driving license, you no longer have to present to a biometric. You don't have to visit there and present to a biometric, right? If you have got the medical certificate, that also can be digitally offered as a verifiable credential. And if you have passed the test, they should be able to digitally offer you a driving license again as a verifiable credential. Verifiable credential is a technology which will enable us to give you a digital certificates or licenses, which will ensure issuer is validated and the owner or the receiver is also validated, and which can be validated elsewhere since it's an open standard. For example, when a policeman want to validate your driving license, he can just ask you to present it from your mobile, and he will have a device which will read it, the QR code, and he would know whether it's a genuine one or not. So similarly, these capabilities we will be exposed to the private sector, so they also can make use of these capabilities and innovate. And around that, we will build our trust framework, the legislature, ensure we make sure this is inclusive, and so on and so forth. So future plan is to work on these areas and ensure we make these capabilities available for everybody in next 2 to 3 years, so that we can reach the impact we would like to achieve. So with that, I will conclude, and I'll be happy to take any questions afterward.
Thank you very much, Mr. Karunasena, enlightening us on this new development. Digital inclusion and accessibility are vital for economic growth, allowing everyone to engage in and benefit from the digital economy. By bridging the digital divide, countries can create new opportunities, improve quality of life, and empower individuals in the digital age. According to the World Economic Forum, a digitally inclusive economy is a growth catalyst. World Bank data indicates that a 10% increase in broadband penetration can boost GDP growth rates by 1.4% in developing economies. Policies must prioritize universal access to digital infrastructure and affordable technology. In this context, our next speaker, Mrs. Sandra Zoysa, will enlighten us on digital inclusion and accessibility as key enablers of equitability economic growth in the digital era and its importance in driving economic growth. Sandra, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and a very good morning to all of you. Hope you have been enjoying the session so far, and it has been great discussions and great insights. So you may actually wonder why my presentation and my discussion is a continuation of Sanjay's when I'm actually from the private sector and not from public government sector. But a lot of what he spoke about is what I'm alluding to as well. My point of view, though, is to do with we as citizens, we as professionals, we as private sector, what can we do and how can we help to advance or drive the economy on the backdrop of what the government is doing. So stay with me for the next couple of minutes, and then we understand where I'm coming from. I think what we all need as citizens, firstly, is a shift in our mindset. And that shift in mindset has to do with the fact that we as citizens of the country need to be the ones to accelerate the economy. Now, government will put together the infrastructure that Sanjay talked about, but the engagements of the citizens is what actually will drive this economic development and growth that our country needs and that we are all looking for. So with that in mind, I'm thinking about digital inclusion, how digital inclusion and accessibility can actually be the greatest equalizer for economic acceleration, right? So, and that's all of us, you, me, government included, all of us, what we can do. Having the infrastructure alone is not going to do anything. The infrastructure can be built, can be put there, but if the rest of us are not in the game, then it's a problem. So to start with, I just want to talk to you about some of these very powerful nations across the world, which includes, of course, the US, Germany, India, China, and Japan, countries like this, how they have benefited from moving the needle based on digital infrastructure, digital services, and how the citizen engagement has helped to drive the GDP. So I won't really look at or talk to you about the figures. You can see it for yourself, and it's powerful. It's very powerful for these countries. If you look at mobile penetration, mobile broadband penetration, you can also see that that infrastructure also helps to move the economy forward by way of growth. So, based on these statistics, what is it like for Sri Lanka? Now, Sanjay talked a lot about what the government is doing, what they aspire to. I'm just picking up 2 points out of all of it. In terms of the vision and policy, I think the government has really set us a blueprint, a way forward. Currently, I believe the adoption and the contribution is around 4%, Sanjay, is that right? Correct? Is about 4%. So in the next 5 years, they aspire to move it to something like 12 to 15%. Now imagine the power of that. Then the other thing is that the government also has pledged to support all of us in the private sector by way of enhancing and accelerating our export in this space, the IT BPM industry, which I represent as well, to move this to a $5 billion income generation for the country. This is very important as well. So these 2 points alone really are good enough for all of us to try to be involved and get engaged in doing our part as citizens of the country, as professionals as well, representing all of the businesses that we do, whether it is in government or whether it is in the private sector. So I'm alluding to this thought of a growth equation, right? Economic growth. So I think, and you will understand, that inclusion is important, and inclusion as well as accessibility, and if that's multiplied by the policy enablement and innovation, we can look at accelerating the economic growth, tenfold, fivefold, whatever we want it to be. When you look at inclusion, it's what Sanjay was alluding to, the digital public infrastructure. And of course, services are important. He spoke about that as well. When the infrastructure is available, the services that can be produced, whether it be government or the public sector or the private sector altogether, is innumerable. It can be any service that can be offered to citizens in Sri Lanka or offered to the world as well, right? So that, and then accessibility is about access, skills, and participation. Participation by the citizens of the country. On the other end, if you look at policy enablement, it has to do with enactment, enforcement, and governance. Of course, that would be the part of the government entirely, supported by the private sector. But this gives us the capability and the capacity to drive innovation forward. And that is in the hands of all of us, right? In education, in all of the access points that allows upskilling of the nation. So if I were to look at a few examples of what this means in some industries, I am just looking at a few examples like healthcare, education, agriculture, entrepreneurship. And in entrepreneurship, I am really talking about SMEs and MSMEs, really, because that's where a lot of this growth can happen, supported by all of us. And of course, enabling a part of our society that are left behind, right? If you think about it, the people with differently able people, or you call the PWDs, right? That society actually has a lot they can offer. I have met quite a few number of students, graduates and undergraduates, who actually are readily available to work, is available to the workforce, but somehow the workforce doesn't accept them as we should because we don't have the infrastructure that is required to accommodate them within the workforce. So that's another society. So I'm just looking at some of the examples. In terms of healthcare, it is in the area of telemedicine and e-health platforms. The benefits can be to the citizens, and the benefits to the citizens has to do with convenience, increasing access, reducing congestion in hospitals, and enabling early intervention before something happens, before we become unhealthy, to proactively take care of that, which otherwise becomes a cost to the government anyway, right? Since healthcare is free, offered free to the nation. In terms of education, it's about digital learning and skills development that I talked about. And the impact obviously is to build that industry 4.0 workforce, narrow rural-urban learning skill gap, as well as enabling continuous education for everyone in society. And regardless of any barriers, whether it's age group or which part of the country you're from, or what your education level is. And of course, it then helps to develop human capital, which then helps to engage everybody. Agriculture, it is about digital farming and market access. And there, obviously, it is to boost the national food security system that we talked about. So we have the infrastructure that Sanjaya talked about in agriculture. On top of it, we now need the digital infrastructure. Reduces crop loss, which is a huge problem, as we all know. And of course, increases farmers' income, which has now become a problem in the last couple of years, post-COVID and financial crisis. And of course, empower and enable bigger yield for all of us, right? In terms of SMEs, it's about, as I said, the financial and business literacy and enablement for MSMEs, SMEs. As you know, 52% of the country's population are females. But if you look at the numbers of entrepreneurs, MSME, SME entrepreneurs in Sri Lanka, women-led, the numbers are very, very small, minuscule. So if we leave 52% of the population behind, it is not possible to have any kind of decent economic growth because you're leaving half the country behind. So it is to also look at everyone, but including such groups of people to be able to help them improve their efficiencies and market access and to bring economic liberation. Enabling differently able groups of people. It could be from PWDs to senior citizens to many different special classes of people or segments of people that will be impacted. So if we really look at and move on, the government has put in some initiatives in place. And when I talk about government, I don't mean government in this era and the previous government and the one before that or the one in the future to come. I just mean government having a program which is focused and consistent, right? That then enables whichever the government that comes to be able to follow through this program. So some of these initiatives are of the past government, founded on the bedrock of it, we build to the future. So if you look at access, I think some great stuff has been done in terms of access, which is Gamata Sangnivedana, which was started previously, GovPay now, and this is really helping to accelerate this program. If you look at skills, the NANASA program, right? Lots of initiatives to upskill, platforms, content available for free, education and access to all. If you look at participation, even traffic now, there's a e-traffic conversation going on with the police, and there has been many things that have been set in place. Also, one of the things that really worked for all of us, as we know, is during the fuel crisis. A good example of public-private partnership that put an end to the troubles and the queues and all of that followed. So unlocking the potential, right? In terms of policy, there has been the telecom law amendment, happened in 2024, that has really, given way to us in the telcos, infrastructure providers, private sector, to be able to do a lot more and to be able to provide a lot more services that the citizens need. GovPay platform is another one that has come up, of course, this year. And of course, SLUDI, the one registry, one that is absolutely necessary and essential for us to move forward, right? We have a national ID, and think of now the replacement of the national ID, the physical one. Soon we need the form of digital ID, otherwise we can't move forward in the world we now live in to beyond. Which then brings me to the topic, how does this really help all of us as citizens? As citizens, what does this really mean for all of us? And that is to bring about fostering a digital trust economy so that every one of us are comfortable to use the infrastructure and services that are being made available to the citizen. So really, government's job then, with also the fact that taxpayers' money comes into government, and often everyone's complaining, saying, taxpayers' money, where is it going? Right. So where is it going? Some of it will be in terms of improving the government to citizen experience by way of providing all of these services that we talked about. And some of the success measures that are in place in other countries has to do with adoption usage rates, citizen satisfaction index, reduced transaction time and cost, and of course increased participation of marginalized societies like the PWDs I spoke about. Now in terms of government to business experience, it can be simplifying compliance or faster enablement, transparency, and of course success measures can be looking at ease of doing business in Sri Lanka index, looking at processing time, reduction, and increased participation of those societies, MSMEs, SMEs I talked about. So these are the things that we can all expect to have, right? So this then just means, now take your mind to a Sri Lanka that has leaped forward and leapfrogged to a time where every child has equal access to digital learning. where every entrepreneur, farmer, artisan can reach global markets, national markets easily, where every citizen receives timely, connected and inclusive digital public services. Innovation will rise, cities will thrive, villages and provinces will thrive to go to the world. That is what we can all look forward to and expect when we move forward and press on to this digital world, right? So our call to action here is for policymakers and to private sector, communities where you and I exist, and of course, to everyone else. Make digital empowerment a shared mission for all of us. With that, my time is up, and I'd like to say thank you, and we can take on some conversations to deliberate further on these points of discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Sandra. Policies and infrastructure investments are essential for any nation striving for a substantial shift towards digital payments, particularly in rural and semi-urban regions such as Sri Lanka. In this endeavor, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka is pivotal, and the fintech sector must prioritize attracting sustainable foreign direct investment FDI to drive growth and innovation. To further discuss these important issues, I would like to invite Dr. Dharmasri Kumaratunge to share his expertise with us.
Good morning to all, and thank you very much for giving the opportunity to discuss the global tech arena of the Sri Lanka. First, so we'll the previous. Can you move to the previous slide? It's not. Okay, I have seen the latest version of the presentation. It is not here, but so we'll continue. So normally in the fintech arena of this, the world 1.5 trillion fintech revenue is expecting in 2030. And the cloud computing is expecting in 2030 is 2 trillion. And also the digital payment, as we are going to discuss today, and the market revenue we are expecting in digital payment side is 3 to 3.3 trillion. And cyber security is also very important. Two speakers also discuss cyber security. The 500 billion we are expecting in the world, globally it is expecting 500 billion. And digital health, 0.9 trillion. And also the AI economic impact for the AI in 2030 is almost 15.7 trillion is expected in 2030. And AI market size is maybe 1.8 trillion in 2030. So if you looked before going to the Sri Lankan context, that is a global requirement and global expectation for 2030. And if we go through these, some of these neighboring countries' development in the technology landscape, in Singapore, 27% of the GDP is involved in the IT BPM sector, and 11% in the global semiconductor. And Malaysia, 14% of the GDP, and for the BPM IT sector, and 7% of the semiconductors of the global. And India, 245 billion IT BPM sector involvement, and 7% of the GDP. In Philippines, 9% of the GDP. So this is what we have seen in the region. And the fintech market development forecast for Singapore is early stage in 2024, only 911 million, and it will expand it, and they are forecasting for the next 5 to 6 years is more than 2 billion. So this is, the next slide is having a discussion on the, how this fintech investment is taking place in the other countries. And what's the portion of the Sri Lanka investment for the fintech? So that is what we want to discuss. In Singapore, in last year, 1.3 billion, and India, 889 million, and Indonesia, almost 559 million. Malaysia, 53 billion in 2025, they are expecting in this year. And Philippines is 786 million, is planning to invest in fintech industry. The fintech market value, the total value of fintech for the country in the Malaysia, 46 billion already. In the value-wise, this worth in 46 billion. In India, in 2025, 155 billion. Singapore, 42 billion. And Indonesia, more than 8 billion. And Philippines, 1.9 billion. So this is how the other countries are working and how they are, the fintech investment is taking place. So this is a completely wrong presentation done. So it has to be revised there.
Revise it.
Reverse it.
I think Dr. Dharmasri, I also received the same slides.
Yeah, this is also wrong. So numbers are not correct. These numbers are not correct. I don't want to present this one. So, sorry. Yeah, please do it. I need 2 minutes. So when I was there, I rechecked on that one. The latest presentation was there. Yes, they said yes. Sorry about that.
We can accommodate. Always we must go for latest thing.
So what we discuss here is that, so before moving towards the Sri Lankan context, the Sri Lankan IT BPM sector, so you want to look how the global requirements are happening and global investments are taking place for the fintech. So that is what my major focus on this, the 50 minutes, the presentation. So anyway, so now, we have seen some of the investments are taking place in the globally, and also the global requirements are huge for the next 5 to 6 years. From the Sri Lankan context, at present, 140,000 IT graduates I think we are having IT workforce in 140,000. So out of 140, 85,000 workforces are export-oriented workplace. So they are located or attached to the export-oriented companies. And export growth for the IT BPM sector in Sri Lanka at present is 1.7 billion now. So it has to be, I think there are some targets for the 2030. So we have to. Right, hold on. So in IT sector, the export revenue we are expecting for 2025, 1.7 billion in Sri Lankan context, and also we have to see the background, what we are having now, what are the capacities we are having. And the 30 plus universities are there, including the private and public universities. So the 30 plus universities, they are conducting some IT degree programs, and 14,000 IT-related graduates are pass out from the universities, public and private both universities, and 10%, more than 10%, they are migrating. And in addition to that, so from the ICT slide, ICT sector from the ICTA, I have got this slide from them. So this year, they are expecting from the Disrupt Asia, going to conduct this, I think, a few months ahead. 50 million target is expecting for this year, and also 200 million for the next year. So this is how our IT sector is spreading out, or the fintech or the startup spreading out of the country. And in Jaffna area, all the other areas, you may see there are fintech ecosystems are widely spread out the country, but there are some improvements need to be done. I think ICTA and the government is at present working. And most of the fintech companies or the startups, AI, 71 institutions are working on the AI, and Internet of Things 70, and there are more than 935 listed startups are there. So what are the opportunities we are going to map with this background? So we have discussed the global requirement, and what we are discussing here with our existing capacity building or the skills having with us in the IT sector, how we can map this opportunity for the next 5 to 6 years. At present, IT BPM sector is contributing 1.7 billion. This is having the 1.9 billion, and it's projected to have the 5 billion. And digital economy, total digital economy expecting 15 billion in 2030. So what are the opportunities we are having in future is that AI-driven services. There's more than billions or trillions of services we can get or we can achieve from the globally. So the requirements are there. So we have to move forward from the agriculture, maybe it's agriculture AI or the technology or the health or whatever the sectors can improve on the AI-driven services. And generative AI is, in these days we are talking about the generative AI and also the model governance. So those are the things we have to focus on the opportunity mapping for considering our existing requirement. So in addition to that, the fintech expansion in the national QR, we have introduced the national QR in 2018 with the other countries. In Singapore, 2016, and India 2016, Singapore introduced the national QR, SGQR in 2018, and so on. The using this national QR, why we introduce this national QR is that going to the other countries, or going or connected with the other countries. So there's an interoperability is there because we have built up this national QR with the EMV core. So any QR having in the other countries can be connected with our QR. So this can be, there are many opportunities on that one. So the opportunity map is going with this existing QR interoperability national QR can be linked with the other QR or the other countries. So this will be advancement of the RegTech environment and the AML KYC compliance, automation, and the FATF alignment is also there when we are going with the national QR. So next opportunity what I have seen is that GovTech acceleration, as discussed with the Sanjaya and the other the lady. Then so national digital ID and the GovTech acceleration. So those services can be enhanced or can be supported for the closed loop ecosystem for government to customer or government to people or the person to government transaction. Why I am highlighted here for the building of the closed loop is that the government is sending money to the Samurdhi or any other activity from the government to the people, then the citizen can be used that money for the any other purposes. So if you are having the closed loop one, they can use only for that purpose. So that is built in of the other countries. So we can also consider, in our case, if the government is sending money to the farmers, they can use the money for the any other purpose of the day-to-day activities. But if you are having the closed loop environment, then they can only use for the particular purpose. And there are many other opportunities also having the strategic export positions are having with the, if you are tapping for the Middle East countries, African countries, and APAC market. So there's a huge opportunity for the cyber security and the digital risk. So these areas also we want to consider. So these are the major institutions at present supporting ICTA, /com, EDB, and also the Chairman-ICT if it is. So these institutions are at present supporting heavily for the IT industry. So what are the challenges we can face in looking or doing this IT BPM sector, enhancement of the BPM sector? The first challenge I have identified is that infrastructure inequality across the country. In some places, you may see that I am staying in 15 kilometers from Colombo city, but in some cases, I am also not getting the good connection. I would have the two entities to have the two routers in my home to get connected from the upstairs and the downstairs. So there are many problems I have in. So therefore, this is in Colombo, but if you go to the another region or the another area, another provinces, I think that problem will be more for the others. And the Cyber Security and Data Protection Act, so it is also need to be done, and because especially for the foreign investments are coming for the country, that should be there, because at present the Data Protection Act is in the Parliament. They have to, I think, get the approval from that. And Cyber Security Act, when I was in the ministry, I'm also working with getting done in the Cyber Security Act, but it's not happened. And without having the Cyber Security Act, we may not be able to establish the Cyber Security Authority. Without having the Cyber Security Authority, we may not be able to get connected to all the bodies and strengthen our cyber security sector. So therefore, especially for the foreigners or the investors, they are looking in these areas. In addition to that, data and intellectual property governance, that's also important. Number 4 is regulatory compliance burden. So in regulatory compliance, especially from the central bank side or any other regulators, so they have the streamlined and the transparent regulatory environment. So time to time, if the regulators are changing the environment or the not clear for the audience or the fintech industry, then the fintech industry will not grow. Example of this one is that when we introduce the QR code, Lanka QR, we introduce for the small and the medium market, giving the low margin, low MDR. Now central bank has increased to 0.5 to 1%. Then that we don't know where to go. Right? Because normally in the other countries, in India, Singapore, it's a 0% of the MDR for the QR code. Here it is 0.5 to 1%. Then so we have the question that where we are going. We are going for the digital or we are supporting for the merchant, or the banks, or the people. Right? So next challenge I have faced, I have identified is that scale and the specialization constraint, that's a skill development and so on. Foreign exchange and the macroeconomic instability, This also impact for the foreign investors that come to Sri Lanka. Or our Sri Lankan products will impact by selling for the other countries. Global market positions is also another I think items we have to think. So when we work with the global buyers, the foreigners or the global investors, what they are looking is that international certification. ISO 20001 or the 9001, or there are many certifications are there. I think especially when you work with the company, IT company, then they are looking on some of the international standard and the skills and define SLAs, agreements we are having, and expertise knowledge and hybrid delivery model. Hybrid delivery model is that there should be the local company with working with the foreign company. So that is what I am expecting for the hybrid delivery model. So there are many other aspects they are looking on this area. So this is what I am proposing, or policy enablers and industry action which we have to take. The first one is talent had to be identified and enhance our talent, and also the trust we have to build with the investors. In addition to that, the capital which we are seek for the seed capital is also required for the IT companies or the fintech companies. And then, of course, we may able to go to the national branding mission to any other country, GCC country, EU countries, the Asian countries. And the fintech rails, that open banking environment, we may able to discuss after, I think, question time. Open API and so on. So then, of course, startup can be lift with considering this enhancing talent and the trust, and inputting some, adding some capital, and then, of course, we can go to the market. So the road, which I have identified in the three big pillars, the first one is open finance. The other countries, especially in the Middle East countries and EU countries, they are using the open finance. This is especially for the cross-border interoperability transaction. So that sections we have to consider. Even though we have discussed this open finance last 4 years in Sri Lanka, it has not implemented on the central bank side or the other government entities. And AI augmented delivery is also the one sector we have to focus. And trusted delivery brand. So 100% working environment we have to, I think, deliver for the certified environment. We have to deliver for the product we actually have to deliver. So these things are very important for if the countries moving towards the foreign entities. So we are targeting for the foreign investment, or we are providing some IT services to the foreigners or the foreign other countries globally. So we have to make sure to comply all these sectors. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dharmasri. Considering the time factors, I invite the audience, if you have any pertinent questions, please ask one, first, second, third. Yes, we'll limit it for 3 questions, yes. You can. Please, first tell your name and ask the question briefly.
My name is Karunasena. I am representing Institute Banks of Sri Lanka. I have to thank all 3 speakers for the wonderful presentation and also sharing their knowledge with us. I have one question. When we take this infrastructure, other facilities and policies, all those things, to what extent have we gone educating the people about how to use it, or digital literacy? I would like to ask 2 sections on that. Scope and scale. To what extent, what is the percentage of people who are using this? Okay, well, what purpose are they using? Because when it comes to IT, I have seen people just using it without knowing exactly what benefit they can gain from that. So to what extent have we gone nationally? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So what I presented is actually what to come. So the first digital public infrastructure component would be the digital ID. So in terms of education, the population, so we have a separate program designed for it, for capacity building. We call it capacity building. So that is actually not only going to focus on so this need to address government, private sector, as well as the citizenry. So we have identified that. So it's going to look at all three areas. So in fact, in relation to the digital ID, we have already engaged with banks, telcos, and insurance sector as an initiation point. So we'll be setting up a sandbox and make those APIs available for them to test it out. So they can think of how the systems can be developed using these components and have those systems even ready when we are to launch these things and make them available. So what we want to get to is when people start registering for the digital ID, it's not some fancy digital ID they have received. There are services they can consume as well. So in parallel, in parallel to that, we have set out certain programs to educate the public as well.
That you want to ask overall questions.
There was a system before called Nanasala. You may have heard about it, yeah. But for some reason, it has not really picked up. So we are looking at mechanism to sort of ramp those things and look at other options as well.
Second question, please.
I'm Dilhan Totehewage from the Sri Lanka Economic Association. My question is regarding the feasibility of IT projects. Now, when you talk to government servants say a private IT company came and provided the software, grabbed millions of rupees away. Ultimately, the software didn't work, and they even go as far as saying that there has been fraud committed. And on the other hand, I find that even some of the basic things in IT have been neglected for many years. For example, if you take our major tourist sites in Sri Lanka, I find that some don't have even official websites. Even our websites are, even the websites that we should be having, we don't have. And I would say it's partly government's fault also. And if you take the police website, the names of the wanted criminals have not been published properly for many years, and some of those things could have been done many years ago. Now my question is about the feasibility. I mean, what would you say about the feasibility of these IT projects? Are these financially feasible? Because in your presentation, so you have put inclusiveness right at the top. Even at a point, the whole country has gone bankrupt, and most of our people want to run out of the country and escape the country. You have gone and put inclusiveness at the top, and there's not much talk about feasibility. What would you say about the feasibility of IT projects?
We'll put that question. Mrs. Sandra, can you?
Yeah, so I think, we need to look at this is a long-term game. This is not just for 1 year, 2 years, one government, two governments, and so on. The problem, I think, in the country is we don't have consistency and we don't have focus. These focus areas keep dwindling, new focus areas come into play. But if you look at the success in other countries, they have a program regardless of who comes into power, which, they continue the program with focus and they don't drop the ball on any of it. So that's one. The other thing is when you look at accessibility and inclusion, it's not an option or a matter of choice. We can't really, conclude saying that because these things are not there, accessibility and inclusion are to be ignored. Because at the end of the day, how can we succeed in this digital arena if we don't keep in mind the higher purpose. The country and all its citizens require to have accessibility, require to be made equitable, right? And not inequitable. We need to narrow that gap that exists within our society. And then all citizens of the country can be enabled and engaged to enjoy what all of these digital transformation initiatives, public and private sector both, can bring to the table and are currently bringing to the table and plan to do so as well into the future. So I think responsibility-wise, all of those things that you mentioned, yes, sometimes they fall on the wayside. Sometimes they get picked up again, right? So it's all about that focus and consistency. And I think if we go back and keep looking to yesteryears and saying this failed, that failed, therefore don't do it at all, that is the problem of the Sri Lankans. We have this habit of trying to stop anything to move forward. So we move 5 steps forward and then take 4 steps backward. So we don't really move forward as we should. One of the other things that I see in the world is now, all of us are not Gen Zs, we are not millennials. Majority of us are in a different generation. And the generation that is currently coming into the workforce, those that are to come into the workforce, this is not an option or choice. They don't know any other way. If you look at COVID times, all the kids had to get on e-learning platforms to continue their life. Even senior citizens, if they had to continue paying their bills, buying their food, buying their groceries for survival, and medicine for health, those were not a matter of choice. They had to get on digital platforms and do it. There was no other way to do it, right? So I think this problem, as I said in the beginning in my presentation, is a shift in mindset for all of us as citizens. These things are naturally going to come into place when, let's say, the 50, 60-year-old generations, all of us, are no longer in the workforce. Everybody, it's a new world, right? So we also then, as maybe retired senior citizens, will have to adapt and move into it. But the generations that are now in the education system, or even much younger, at 2-3 years of age, they can operate, watch cartoons, operate little programs, do all these things on iPads. All that is possible, right? They are naturally people being born to living in this generation, and for them, they don't have to force themselves to learn, adopt, be scared, be frightened. That's all they know, right? So looking forward, just looking forward, if we shift our mindset from where we are today to a few years, a decade from now, we will see that some of these problems won't exist. So what we are putting in place, or we should all have to get together and put in place, if not for us, for the future generations, for our children, for our children's children. And that's what we need to do. We need to focus on the future and move forward and not be stuck in the past of everything that didn't work and how it doesn't work, because then you can't really move forward. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Ms. Sandra. The final question. Yeah. Who else want to ask final question? We can't steal that other session's time.
I'm Engineer Chamila Dirumani. One question. When we go into the digital transformation, and my question is, how do we integrate and what is the role of digital currency in this digital transformation? Let's say crypto. How are we going to integrate that into the interface of the digital transformation? Can anybody?
Dr. Dharmasri.
So thank you for asking question now on the CBDC is one area, central bank digital currency, and the other area is that cryptocurrency. So at present, the role and the mechanism or that is standard from the central bank side is that they will not allow for having these cryptocurrencies type of Bitcoin or any other Ethereum or whatever the currencies having. It is not allowed, or they are not saying prohibited or not, but we may not be able to use our credit card to do that one. So that is what given in the Foreign Exchange Department of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. And for that, I have appointed the committee 4 years back, and the committee has given the recommendation, good recommendation. The committee is involving IT sector, non-IT sector, and also some of the regulators. The committee recommendations are there, handed over to the governor. Then of course the one recommendation is that the type of investment type we may able to do using this crypto investment type, and other countries also doing the same, and we may get some the examples from the other countries how they are doing. And recently, governor also, I have heard that newspaper article is also saying that going to have another committee, no need to have another committee. Committee is appointed, given the recommendation. Only thing is we have to implement the recommendation. And the CBDC, Settlement Digital Currency, I will appoint the committee in 2020 before it starts in India. So when I asked from the Indian side, RBI, so they have not think on the CBDC at that time, but in our side, I have think on that and appoint the committee on that. And 2 reports submitted to the CBSL, and also the board paper also submitted before I retired, but it is not continue. So we should have to go with that one. At least we have to start POC level type of things for the CBDC. That is my personal view. If not, we are lagging with the other countries. If we are going with the other countries, we should have to go with that.
Yeah, Mr. Nishanka, with your question, you can close. Do you want to ask that question?
Sorry. Yeah, my quick question to Ms. Sandra. You see, what are the primary data points where the population-wise is the electoral register, which is in fact working very well, and this is it goes down to the lowest level of the Grama Sevaka or the divisional secretary, this thing. And what I see is that you have a very good base on that, but if you get the Grama Sevaka, he basically still operates on what we call hard copies. And if you ask him anything, it's there. But why is it that that impetus is not given to that level of distribution? From there it goes straight up, and is this particular electoral register being utilized for or expanded into, let's say, the ID, let's say, into all the other sectors? Because this is existing, it is updated, and it's working very well.
Mr. Karunasena. Yeah, it can go to the ICTA.
Yeah.
Question can go to ICTA representative here.
So let me try to provide a perspective on that. Yes, I think that's a very good way of looking at it. So currently, there was of course an effort to bring digitization down to the Grama Niladhari level. There was this project called E-Grama Niladhari, but due to various reasons that has not really picked up. But however, with the digital ID coming in, I think we would have very good connection to all the citizens. Grama Niladharis, of course, will have a role still, because they are the citizens' closest contact. When you move from one area to another, you will go and register with him and declare your address and so on. So that information also will get updated accordingly. So once we have the digital ID established, all the other systems will get connected to that, including the electoral registry. So they will be able to actually automatically determine whether you are eligible for vote, because the data will be with, they will also have equal access to data.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, distinguished panelists, the person who asked these questions. I have a lot. As a legal practitioner involved in ICT, I have a long list of questions I have to ask because I have no time to ask this question. Because today that we are in AI era, as the first question asked from the gentleman, he asked where the legal education, especially as far as legal education is, we are not satisfied at all. Today all are talking about AI. Finally this will be ended up with IA, if you don't know the AI properly. This is the situation we are there. Anyway, as far as reforms are concerned, we have to accelerate. It's not like bringing amendment to Tesavalam law, Muslim law, or Indian law, because this is a technology. Today we are talking about AI. After 3 months it may be BI, another 3 months may be CI, because we have to expedite this matter. With that consent, I will conclude this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I would like to call upon the following dignitaries on stage, please, to do the honors in presenting tokens to our panelists. And we have Mr. Sujivalal Dahanayaka, President, Mr. Jayanta Galaheva, President-elect, Mr. Chandasiri Kalupahana, Treasurer, Architect Dr. Rohana Bandara Herath, Vice President, OPA. Can we have 4 of you on stage, please? As the first token of appreciation being presented to the lady on stage, Ms. Sandra de Zoysa. Everyone, give it for Ms. Sandra de Zoysa. Thank you very much, ma'am. And the next token of appreciation being presented to Mr. Sanjaya Karunasena. Thank you very much, Mr. Sanjaya Karunasena. Dr. Dharmasri Kumaratunge. Thank you very much, Dr. Dharmasri Kumaratunge, and to our session chair, Dr. Sunil D.B. Abeyaratne. Right, it's time to take a group photograph now. Other panelists, if we can get closer to the dignitaries, please. Right, thank you very much. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of session 2. And we're going to continue